Welcome to episode 2 of this tutorial to create your first playable level in 10 using Tomb Editor. So this time we're going to create another room, we're going to add some more visual effects and start adding objects which will form a big part of the gameplay. In case you've closed the project in the meantime, I just want to show you how to open up the project again. The best thing to do is to open Tomb IDE because this is the central place for your whole project. Click on the playable tutorial level project, click on the level you want to open, which for us is just level 1, and it will automatically load Tomb Editor for us. It will load in our textures and objects and take you to the last place we were, which was our first room. So let's create a new room. Remember that we left this bit at the front open and we wanted to create a door. Before we create a new room connected to this one, we just want to turn on a couple of options up here. If we go to the top, click this, which is Draw All Rooms, and the one next to it, which is Draw Portals. What this will do is when we create a portal into a new room, it won't make this room disappear. By disappear, I don't mean it will just delete itself. In the view, it means it will stay, and it just makes the whole level building experience easier because you can see all the rooms at the same time. Select the two walls in the middle here, and then, provided that we're in geometry mode, scroll down and you'll notice this last one, which is called Portal Digger. So select that, and if you click on the walls here, it creates a new room connected to the previous one. While holding down the mouse button, we can push it out, we can pull it back, and so we can actually have a little bit of control about how big the room is going to be. What we want to do here is push it so that it's 9 blocks long. If you make a mistake here, don't worry, we can change the size later on. It's no big deal. And then release the button, and we've created a new room connected. Just take a look at the 2D view here. You'll notice this black bit. That basically tells us that there's a door here, a portal. You can right click and it will select it. And if you left click on it, it will take you back into the main room. There's actually another way that you can go between rooms, a much easier one. And that's literally just to double click on the room that you want to go to. So with this room, we also want to resize it. Last time I showed you that you could make a room smaller just by selecting the squares in this view here and then just pressing the crop button. This time we want to make the room bigger, and we can't actually select anything here that makes the room bigger. So instead, just make sure that nothing is selected here by pressing escape. Click the crop room. So all we need to do is just change the numbers here. We can make it longer or wider on either side. What I'm going to do in this case is make each side wider by 3. So this one, just turn out to 3. This one, also by 3. And then click OK. It will ask you whether you're totally sure that you want to crop the room, because let's imagine you're making the room smaller. It will automatically delete things that get deleted if you make the room smaller. We're making this bigger, so there's nothing to delete anyway. So click yes. Let's keep up the good habit of renaming our rooms. So click the edit button here and let's just call it Dome Room. That will make sense in a few minutes. Now you'll notice on the left hand side, so where the portal is, the walls are really thin, and in game that's going to look a little bit ridiculous. These are called paper thin or wafer thin walls, and it's not a good habit to have any of these in your level unless for some reason it makes sense, maybe a window or something. But in this case, it's a tomb. We definitely want nice thick walls. Make sure that we're in our new room. Select the tiles just in front, and we're going to build a wall on both sides. So now we want to do some geometry editing in this room. Make sure that you're still in geometry mode. We don't want the portal digger still selected. So instead, go back to the drag tool. And what we want to do is on each side of the room, select all of the tiles there and move them up by 4 clicks. And the same on the other side. Select the next line in, and we're going to move this one up by 2. And what I'd like to do with this room is actually create some diagonal walls. So select each corner tile and then go over to the left here and you can see diagonal wall. Simply click it and you'll notice it creates one. But here it's in the wrong direction. It's not facing the right way. So just click the same thing again. Keep going until it looks right. Let's do the same in each corner. Now on one of the sides, I'm going to use the right side here. Select these 4 tiles and then release the mouse button. Then just click on them one more time and you'll notice some arrows. This will allow us to make some slopes. Click again and the arrows will move around, and click one more time and they'll disappear. What we want to do here is click until they're in this direction. So you'll notice the arrows here and here are pointing towards the center of the room. Click and hold, and we're going to pull them down to create a slope. I've created a 2-click slope, which basically means from the top to the bottom, it's going down by 2 clicks. And this is the maximum that Lara can actually walk on without sliding. If it's any more than 2 clicks, then she'll start sliding down, which might be important for your gameplay. Let's do the same at the other side. Select these tiles, keep clicking until the arrows at the top point into the center of the room. Click and hold, pull them down, and you've created a 2-click slope. But what we can also do with the floor is that we can create slopes in other ways. I'm just going to show you by selecting this tile here. If we click on it, then these arrows appear, which allow us to move the floor in any of these directions. If you hold down the Control key, you'll notice that the arrow goes to the corner. And then if you lift it up or push it down, then half of the tile will go in that direction. So you can make some really nice environments by doing this. Let's just do this with a few random squares. So hold down the Control button, click at the top until it's facing a certain direction, and we'll just pull it up by 1 click. The reason we're doing it here, it's a tomb. Maybe it's had a little bit of damage over time, and so it just makes the floor look a little bit more uneven. Let's do it at the other side as well. Let's say you've changed your mind. You want to change the shape of the room and maybe you want to add a little bit to it. I've decided, for instance, I'm going to put some stairs here, but they're not really going anywhere. So I'm going to add a little bit of a hidden corner around it. I could, if I wanted, just create a new room behind it. But since it's going to be quite small, it's probably a bit more efficient just to change the size of this room. So make sure that nothing is selected. I'm going to press Escape, and then we're going to go back to the crop room. And I want to create it on this side, which is the left side. So it's on this side here. And what I'm going to do is just increase it by 3 and then click OK. The new area that's created, it's in its default settings. By that, I mean that the floor and ceiling are usually going to be around about this height. So you might need to adjust some of the geometry, make sure that we've got the drag tool selected, and let's bring up the floor. And to create a hidden corner, which is going to be around here, I don't want all of this to be open. So I'm going to select some parts of it and add a wall. And that way, when Lara comes up the steps here, she has to go around into this corner and there's going to be a pickup for her here. Now, remember, I asked you to call it dome room. Well, we're going to look at the ceiling and let's make a dome. There's a quick way of doing this, but I want to show you the slightly slower way just so you get used to some of the tools. Select the 4 squares in the middle. Now, this time, what you want to do before you do anything is make sure that you hold down the Alt key. Hold it down and then pull up the ceiling and you'll notice that it pulls the tiles along with it. This is really nice if you want to create a kind of smooth sloped effect rather than the stepped ceiling that we had in the previous room. Select these 4 tiles, make sure the Alt is held down, pull it up one more time. If we take a look at it though, I'm not entirely happy with it. If we zoom in, you'll notice that here it's a little bit flat. I want it to be a proper dome and not have these flat bits. So what we can do here is if we click on this, and just like with the floor, if you click the left mouse button, you can add these arrows. Remember that if we press Control and do this, it goes into the corners. So keep doing this until the arrow goes into this corner here. And we're going to press the Alt key and pull it down, and it makes it look a little bit better. It's not the most dramatic or tallest dome ceiling, but it's just to give you an idea about how this works. So let's do that again with this tile. Hold down Control, make sure that the arrow is pointing into the corner, hold the Alt key so it pulls everything else around it. Let's make our walls ready for texturing, and we're going to use the same method that we did before. So just go to any of the walls, select the tiles here. We're going to leave the diagonal ones for now. I'll tell you why in a second. And let's pull down from the ceiling a line, 4 clicks, and let's pull up one from the floor. But we're going to pull it up 2 because then we've got these nice squares here, and then we can just use half a texture to texture this. With the diagonals, it's best to just select them individually. If you don't, then you end up selecting a lot more than you want to, and we can't drag the lines down properly, so it's best just to select them by themselves. But then it's the same process. Click and drag down a line from the ceiling, click and drag up a line from the floor. And you can do it again on this side. And then do the rest with the rest of the walls. Remember again, if we need to bring up another one, then we need to press the number 2, and we bring up one from the floor. What I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to bring these ones up to here, and then I'm going to press 3 to create another one. And the reason why I'm doing this is for lighting. Remember how lighting will look best if all of these bits match. All of the lines link up to each other, and you've got these kind of nice square shapes. It's not the end of the world if you don't do this, but if you want really nice lighting, then I'd recommend doing it. If you want to segment the walls of a whole block like this that are actually made up of these walls, what you can do is just select them all in the 2D view here. It saves a little bit of time, and then you can just pull down a line and pull up another one. I think we're ready for texturing. Let's look at the floor first. I'm going to select a floor texture for this room, and let's look at the texture panel. I'm going to choose this one, the most generic of these, and then I'm going to make sure that I'm in face edit mode, and then textures, texture floor. And you'll see the wallpaper effect take place. Now what we can do is add a little bit more randomness to this. Let's select this one, and this is what's known as a transition texture. It's when it goes from one to another, and you might, for instance, want to put it here so that this sandy floor looks like it's melting a little bit more realistically into the bricks here. So let's put one there, and it already fits nicely. But if we put one here, you'll notice that it doesn't look good. And this is where we want to rotate the texture. To rotate the texture, just press Shift, click, and there it looks a little bit better. Let's put this texture in all of the corners just to make sure it fits with the sandy bit facing the wall. So here I'm going to use Shift and rotate here as well. And then let's add a few more different tiles just to vary things up. So I'm going to select this one here, click in a few random places. Again, this isn't the perfect way to texture, but it's a little bit better than what we did in the other room. And let's use this one as well. You'll notice that the sandy bit is on the edge. So we can go towards the edges here. And if we click, it's not in the right place. So hold down Shift and it will rotate. I'm just going to keep them on the bottom for now. Before we do the walls, let's take a look at the ceiling. I'm going to do something similar to what we did before. I'm just going to texture the whole ceiling with one texture. So let's go with one that I think would work. I'm going to select this one here, and then textures, texture ceiling. Let's actually add a few different ones. Let's select the one next to it, and I'm just going to click random places just to add a little bit more variety. Let's go down here, don't forget. What we want to do here, we're going to create a light shaft. And to do that, we want to add a texture here which looks like light might naturally come through. So let's select something where we can imagine it coming through. And to do that, there is a texture somewhere. Here it is. Let me just zoom in. And you'll notice something about it. The back is actually transparent. What we're going to do is add it to the 4 squares in the middle, just like that. And the transparent bits will also be transparent here, but what's it going to? Well, it'll end up actually looking at the sky texture. And later on, when we talk about outside rooms, we'll talk about what that actually means. And so you'll be able to see the sky through this. but it doesn't look great. So we want to do some rotating. We also want to actually do some flipping. So you can rotate, but you can also mirror textures. Here, for instance, let's mirror this one so it matches this one. And for this, we're going to press Control, and it's flipped. Let's do the same with this one. I think it can look even better. I think if we rotate these ones around, it will look more like a natural square. So let's just rotate them. But then you'll notice I need to flip these back, holding down the Control key to do so. And there we go. A little bit more of a realistic looking ceiling. I mean, the textures at the edge here don't match perfectly with these dark ones here, but for now, I think we can be happy with that. The next thing is to texture the walls, and we just need to do what we've learned before. Make sure the 256 is selected so we've got the full size for these square blocks. And then to do these smaller ones, it's half that size. So we select 128, and then we select half of one of these textures and put it here. Now I've left these ones blank because I want to show you how the textures work with some different types of faces. Notice that we've got some 2-click high faces here, but we've got these ones which are halfway between 2 and 3. We've got 2 towards the left and then gradually goes up to 3. Let's pick a texture that we generally want on these edges. This one here. If we pick half of it, so we've got the 128 selected here, it's half a texture, and we put it on these ones, then it looks all good, exactly what we want. If we put it on these ones though, it's going to be a little bit stretched. With this texture, it doesn't look too bad, but let's say we don't want it to be slightly stretched. Instead, what we can do, because this is up to 3 clicks high, we want to make sure that our texture is about 3 clicks high as well. Now, what we need to do here is select the smaller size, so 64. That's 1 click, 2 clicks, 3 clicks, and then we can click on these, and what it will do, it will automatically chop off the top part of it that won't be seen here. So it looks exactly the right kind of shape and it doesn't squash on any side. Let's just finish off texturing the other side. So for these ones, I'm going to select a texture that's about that size and apply it to these faces here. Here at the sides, we've got a triangle, and it's basically the same principle. Just make sure your texture is about the right size. And if you click on it, it automatically cuts it so it fits really nicely. So here we've got about a 1-click height thing. And so I'm going to select 64 here, just select the top. I can still click and it automatically does the right one. So the 1-click high things, I'm just going to add this texture to. So I might need to scroll around the room a little bit and find them. So in a minute, we're actually going to add some objects and get some gameplay going. But first of all, let's do the lighting. So we need to go to lighting mode over here. And to change the ambient light, we go over to the left here and we can select whatever we want. I'm just going to click off this here because what I want to do in this case, I want to make sure the ambient light is exactly the same as the room next to it. And to do that, we can go into that room, just click the ambient light, and it will automatically still be at what it was. And we can add it to this little grid here. It's a little bit difficult at the moment because the ambient light is very much similar to the colors here, but we can click add color and it will actually add it to the square here. Go back into the other room. Click ambient light, and then it's this one here. Click OK, and then we've got exactly the same ambient light. I'm also going to cut another corner and copy some lights over. So let's go back into the other room. Remember, double click when you see the room to go into it. And I'm going to select the sun bulb here. What we can do is copy and paste it. So we can either use the Control and C, which will copy it. You could also right click and click copy. And another one is actually to click clone. If you do clone, the plus already appears here. We can go back to this room, just double click to go in, and then I'm going to put it in a similar position kind of around this corner. Click escape. If you don't and you click, then it will actually add another bulb like this. You can have more than one sun bulb in each room, but for this one, I just want one. So I'm going to delete this one here. And this one, it automatically puts it on the floor. So I'm just going to raise it up. And the reason I might want to do this is let's say I've got several rooms together And I want this sunlight, the light that projects and creates these subtle shadows, I want them to be identical in each room. And that can be quite nice, uniform lighting. So that's what I've done here. It's got exactly the same color, exactly the same direction. What I'm going to do over here is put a point light. Remember that from before. So select point here, click plus, and put it over there. I'm just going to raise it up and put it in the middle. The reason I've put it here is just to attract the player to look in this direction. Maybe there's something here that they can find, and then they'll go into this hidden corner. But that's quite bright. What we did before is when the light is selected, we clicked color here, chose a color, the brightness. What I'm going to do instead is actually use the palette. And this is just another way of using colors. So for this one, I'm going to create a kind of orangey color. That one's a bit too strong, maybe a little bit of a yellow one, something in between. Again, it's way too bright. I can always go back into this window, pull down the brightness, which is what I'm going to do, to about that. And I still think it's a little bit bright. I want to make it a bit more subtle, so I'm going to reduce the intensity. Now, remember before, when we were doing texturing, we created this sort of window on the ceiling, and we're going to put a light shaft coming down. And this is where we're going to use a new type of bulb. So just deselect everything. And this time I'm going to go down to the lighting menu and select Spotlight. Click plus, put it roughly in the middle, just adjust it so it is exactly in the middle here. And then I'm going to pull it up, imagining that the source of the light is about where this window is. And you'll notice, a bit like with the point lights, it has this green and blue element. This time though, as a spotlight would suggest, it's projecting the spot into that direction. I want it to come down from the ceiling down to the floor, so I'm going to use the red axis and pull it in this direction. And as we do so, we see that it actually casts a light in that direction. If you hold down the control key, it will do it in much more rigid increments. This is nice if you want to make sure it's exactly the opposite side of what you wanted, then it will go by 45-degree increments. So for this, it's a bit similar with point lights in terms of what the green and what the blue mean. And to do this, we're going to use the same in and out ones that we did before. So the in, I'm just going to hold down this arrow until it goes down to the floor. And when it hits the floor, you'll notice it suddenly cast a much brighter light. What I'd like to do is actually widen this blue. I'm going to bring it around here just so that the light is cast a little bit wider and the gap between really bright and not shining at all is a little bit bigger. And for this, we can use these in and outs. The in refers to the green one and the out refers to the blue one. So I'm just going to increase the radius just to that. I quite like the intensity of it. It's sort of a bright ceiling light, but imagine it's an outside light, and we're going to set this kind of towards late afternoon, evening. So it's maybe a bit more of a kind of subtle orangey light, a little bit like that. We're going to add some objects now, and for this I need to explain the concept of WADs. So a WAD is basically a file, and that contains a lot of objects, a group of objects. We can make our own WADs, and to do that you can see a more advanced tutorial. In Tomb Editor, it already loads in what's known as the base WAD, the 10 base WAD. It's a default WAD which has the most important objects in it already, including Lara herself. If you have a look at items on the left, just click the drop-down menu, scroll down, and you can see all of these objects. There's quite a lot here. You might not end up needing all of these, but the reason why this exists is because every now and then 10 is updated, and sometimes these objects are updated. It might be to fix bugs or add new animations, for instance. So we want to keep that in there. But in this list, there isn't really anything in there like furniture or columns or stairs or anything else. And for that, we need to add a new WAD. I've created a special WAD for you, which has all the objects you'll need for this level, but we need to load it into Tomb Editor first. So to do this, just go up to the top and click Items, and then Add WAD. It will automatically bring us to our level folder again, and this is where we go to WADs, and then just load in the tutorial level WAD. Nothing spectacular happens, but what it's actually done is that it's added those objects to this list here. So you've still got one list of objects, but it's actually 2 WADs combined. If we add new objects, sometimes we might be adding objects that have sound effects. For example, it might be a door that opens and closes. And just to make sure that the sound effects play properly, we have to make sure that the editor detects them. If we go up to Tools and Level Settings, Then go down to sound infos. By default, it loads in the vast majority of sounds that you might use, but it detects what sounds you've actually got in the level. But when you add objects, it's possible that you might need to just refresh this so it auto-detects any new sound effects that you might need. Now that we've added a second WOD, just click auto-detect and then just click yes here. What it will actually do is change this number, and you'll notice that it's selected a few more sounds. This is because in the WOD we've just added, there are some doors where the sounds weren't originally included. Click apply and then OK. There are two types of objects. You've basically got statics, and statics are objects that just sit in your level. They don't move, they don't animate. And you've got movables, which is basically everything else. And a movable, often it has an animation, so a door could be a movable, but it's also an object that Lara can interact with, and that includes things like pickups. To add some objects, I'm going to go back into geometry mode just to make sure that I don't accidentally mess with any of the lights or any of the textures, and I'm going to deselect everything. What I'm going to do is place some columns first, and I think these two spots on either side of this entrance will be nice places for columns. For me though, I don't like that this window is really small. I think it's much more helpful to see the objects bigger. You can actually move around all of these windows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move imported geometry over to the side there. And I'm also going to move classic triggers over to the side. I'm also going to move objects in room over to the same place. And what it's done is that it's put all of those three things together and it's created these tabs. So you haven't lost them, they're still there, but it's good to remember where you've put them. And then I've got a much nicer, bigger window now. So static 4, let's use that. Click the plus icon and just place it. You'll notice though that it doesn't quite go up to the ceiling. One solution is to make the geometry fit. So let's just pull down the ceiling and it fits perfectly if we pull it down by 2 clicks. Let's add it here as well. Pull down the ceiling by 2 clicks. You'll notice that it's actually slightly hovering, and that's because we made this square a little bit of a weird shape. No biggie, just select it and pull it down a little bit just so it's at the floor. Go to the other side. Let's add 2 more columns in the same place. If you go back into face edit mode, however, you'll notice because we changed the geometry that we don't actually have any textures here yet. And what we've done by texturing the room before we put the objects in, that's actually a little bit unusual. It can sometimes create more work than we want. A lot of builders would argue it's best to put in your gameplay, your objects, enemies, triggers, etc. For now, I'm going to come back to that later. I'm going to go back into geometry mode and place some more objects. I want to go to this Bastet statue here, so static 3. Click the plus and place it. The cat's facing the wrong direction, so I'm going to use this green axis just to pull the cat along. Just like with moving objects and lights, if you hold down the control key, you can move it by really tiny increments. Release it and it will go back to snapping to 45-degree increments. To put one here, we can do just what we did with the lighting. We can copy it. I'm just going to use the Control and C and then Control and V. Go around to the other side. I'm going to paste a statue here, just spin it around. Remember that we wanted to create some stairs here, proper nice looking stairs. If you go down to static 9, you'll notice some stairs ready for us. Click the plus and it will add them. Spin them around and we've got them ready. This object goes over 2 tiles. You can find stairs on the internet that cover 1 tile. You can also find stairs which cover 1-click slopes instead of 2-click slopes like this. I'm going to copy and paste and put it there. Do the same thing on the other side. I just need to rotate it, copy, paste there. Here's a really important texturing point though if you're going to use stairs. Notice that the stairs themselves don't perfectly fit to the slope. That's okay. It looks a little bit more realistic. There's some bumps here. The problem is we've actually textured the tiles underneath. And so in game, you're going to see the textures popping through the stairs. What we want to do is actually just texture these squares behind them transparent. So go to the face edit mode. And what you could do is you could select the stairs, just move them out of the way, and then you've got the face. But we're going to use something else, which is to hide the objects. If you go up to this icon here, just click it, and it tells you what you can see. So we can see all of these types of objects, and we know that we've only added static objects at the moment. So I'm just going to untick this, and they'll disappear. We want to texture these transparent. So make sure we're still in face edit mode. Go down the tools and you'll notice this invisibility icon. Click that, click the floor, and it now means that they're transparent. Let's do the same thing with the other side. And then we want to bring the objects back. So select this icon, go down to draw statics and click. I think Lara needs something to find. So let's go back into this hidden corner, back into geometry mode so I don't mess up any of the textures. And what I'm going to do is add a Medipack here. Go to our list of objects. So you could scroll up and down, look for Medipack. You'll find it eventually, but well, here it is. You've got big Medi and small Medi, but that might take a bit of time. You can just search for an object. It's much quicker. Click the search button there, and I'm just going to type Medi, and it will find a Medipack. So just add it there. The Medipack is only halfway on the square. The other half is actually underneath. Don't worry about that. In game, it will automatically just pop up into the right place. And this will happen with all the pickups. I'm going to add a couple more pickups. Let's say Lara comes there. I'm going to give her some ammo. And if I look at the list, I've got a lot of options. Lara likes Uzis. Let's give her some Uzi ammo. And I'm going to go back to the first room. So double click to go back into that room and behind one of these columns. So you have to put a little bit of effort in as a player to find it. I'm going to put some shotgun ammo. Feel free to add some more objects around the room. Take a look at the list here. Anything that takes your fancy. For instance, I quite like these statues here. I'm going to add one on each side of this portal. And I need to rotate them. Copy, paste it over. And we have forgotten one thing, which is the light shaft. So we've already put the actual light, but to make it a bit more visually appealing, there's an object, which is a light ray. If you go down to static 11, you'll notice it here. Just put it roughly in the right place. You're going to need to raise it up, and let's raise it up all the way to the top of the room. It's not quite in the middle, so again, we just need to shift it across so it fits. The only problem is if we turn on face edit, the light shaft doesn't really cover much of this window. And one thing you can do with objects is that you can resize them in the editor itself. To do that, just make sure the object is selected, and then you can go to any of these squares, just pull it, and it will increase the size of the object. I don't increase it too much just because the light rays already go down to the ground. I'm just going to increase it a little bit more. There we go. While we're at it, I'm just going to texture these untextured faces. A little tip at this point. Let's say you can't actually find any untextured faces, but there are some in the level. They're hidden away somewhere. This can happen a lot if you've got quite a complicated room and you just didn't see it. There is actually a feature that you can use, which is find untextured faces. And to do that, go to textures, go down to search textures, and then find untextured or default texture. There are other options. We're not going to worry about those for now, but just untextured. If we want to make sure it's just this room we're looking at, keep this checked. If you want to look at the whole level, then you can do, just keep it unchecked. For now, we've only got 2 rooms, so I'm going to uncheck that. Click new search, and it will tell you where they are. And this is why naming rooms can be really helpful. And if you click on each of them, it will theoretically bring you towards them. There you go. Just zoom out and it will highlight them. So that's a really nice feature. For now, I'm going to close it, and I'm just going to texture these with an appropriate texture. So I've got a few objects and we're gradually bringing our level to life now. Let's test out the level then. Go up to the play icon, build level and play. And we can go and check out the shotgun shells that we put behind here, and go into our other room, just check out the light shaft and the lighting, as well as how the objects look. I think that's looking kind of nice. And you can go up the stairs and then into the corner where we put the Medipack. You notice that the hand icon came over the object. That's on by default. You can turn it off if you want to, and the players can do this as well if you go to options and then sound and gameplay. And there are various settings you can enable or disable. In this case, the interaction highlighter, just press the right arrow key to disabled and apply, and then we won't see it anymore with any pickups or interactable objects. So what did we do in this lesson? We learned how to create a new room connected to one we already had. We clicked between rooms, avoided paper-thin walls, learned how to create some triangular walls, also sloped floors and ceilings. We looked at spotlights, we looked at WADs, and we looked at loading a second WAD and then how to place static objects. Still to come, triggers, including traps, enemies, and doors. And we'll create a big stacked room with some ledges so Lara can really climb around, including the monkey swing and climbing on walls.